Our senior counsel for Global Affairs, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, joining us now. Secretary Pompeo, I want to jump right into it because we've got the Kremlin's propaganda machine. It's a state-owned news network, so it's owned directly by Russia, not just like affiliated, not friendly, but actually owned by Russia. And the head of the station goes on to talk about the U.S. and Ukraine, and the quote translated is, "We're holding very strong cards in our hands. Our hypersonic weapons are guaranteed to produce a response that is so unpleasant for America to hear, being reduced to radioactive ash." I mean, yeah, you could say it's bluster, but on the other hand, I mean, this is a new era of using nuclear weapons as a threat to America and our allies.
Jordan, you're quite right. That kind of language is relatively unprecedented from an official who is directly connected to a state that has a nuclear capability, the scale and scope that the Russians do, that Vladimir Putin controls. While there's probably some bluster in it, there's probably something going on inside of Russia where that made him say that. We should take seriously the threats, the credible threats that the Russians are presenting, not only the hypersonic weapons to which you referred, but the incredible military buildup that they've placed along Ukraine's eastern border. This is a serious challenge. It is a challenge to the Biden administration. They watch the Bidens give them the New START treaty, a treaty that we were holding out, that we'd said, fine, we're happy to fix this with you, but we need something for it. The Biden administration gave it to them. They then gave them the pipeline in exchange for nothing. They have seen this administration cave time after time, and I think they're convinced that they can get the administration to cave to the demands that Vladimir Putin has laid out. Again, this matters to the American people. This central idea that borders should be respected and sovereignty is important and democracy should be rewarded is something the American people understand impacts them every day. And I hope this administration doesn't allow the Putin team that you quoted from there today displace the central understanding.
Well, this is Jay, Mike, and supposedly the same media outlet and the same spokesperson is saying that Putin has put forward written agreements to NATO, and he wants guarantees that NATO never expands at any time in the future. The same media host that Jordan quoted said Russia's prepared and handed over to the Americans its written proposals on strategic stability, or more simply, on the prevention of nuclear war, since we are already at a critical point, to be honest. It's simple. The U.S. and NATO must roll back from our borders. Otherwise, we will, figuratively speaking, roll up to their borders and create symmetrical, unacceptable risks. If you put a gun to our head, we will respond in kind. Now, this is the language coming out of a state-controlled media in Moscow.
These voices almost certainly are reflecting what Vladimir Putin intends them to reflect. If that's your point, yes. The state control is real. These are messages that Putin himself intends for Western audiences, probably for his own internal audiences as well. But remember, Jay, he knows Latvia is not going to invade Russia, right? He knows that there's no threat to his homeland. This is what he is proffering when he talks about, well, we can't expand NATO. What's serious and what matters most is that we are clear about the things that we have expectations for. We were working to try and find, Jay, the ACLJ has talked about this before, a good arms treaty makes sense. We were working to find a place with him on these strategic weapon systems, along with the Chinese and their new nuclear-capable programs. But we couldn't get to a place which protected America. I'm afraid that whether it's climate change that is driving it or something else that doesn't protect America's security interests, this administration probably hears those words and is prepared to say, look, we're not prepared to do the right things to protect the things that matter to every American all across our country.
And I think one thing, Secretary Pompeo, that our listeners need to prepare for, but also the American people, is that it's like Putin is putting in place a possibility where he can blame his invasion of Ukraine, if they take those steps to go further than what they're already doing, on the U.S. and NATO. And he's going to say, I had to do this. It's because of the United States and NATO. And again, people have to be pretty educated on this topic to understand why that's not true.
Yes, Jordan, indeed. Yesterday I saw some reporting that suggested that the Russians were accusing the United States of placing chemical weapon systems inside of Ukraine to create a provocation. The U.S. government did the right thing. They denied it. I'm not privy to all the actions. I am very confident that did not take place. This is classic KGB, Russian, Soviet disinformation designed to make them look like the victim, not the aggressor that they are.
As we look to 2022, just days ahead, what do you see as the most pressing national security issue we're going to face in this new year?
Oh, goodness. The long-term challenge that we'll face right away is continuing to press the Chinese Communist Party. Answers about how we've now had millions of people killed across the world from a virus that escaped from their country. Answers to why they're holding people in the western part of their province and using slave labor and forced sterilizations upon those people. Lots of answers about Chinese Communist Party hegemony. But what's taking place in Vienna and Tehran on these negotiations with the Iranians is also something that is very concerning. The administration has now thrown up their hands. They're turning to blame the Trump administration for the place that they've found themselves in, and it is the kind of place that this administration has found itself before and has not demonstrated resolve. You can tick them off, perhaps starting first and foremost with Afghanistan and the way that they so poorly exited there and caused 13 Americans to be killed.
You know, Mr. Secretary, we've been telling and talking with our donors around the country and those that listen to this broadcast or watch us on television how critical it's been for us to have your expertise as part of our team. And I just want to thank you for being part of the team here at the ACLJ. It makes a huge difference. Your insights are phenomenal, and our ability to take action items because of that is great. So from all of us, thank you for being part of the team here at the ACLJ.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jordan. Bless you. You all have a very Merry Christmas and a good start to the new year as well, sir.
You too.